Hey everyone, welcome back. You know how sometimes you pick up a book and it just takes you by surprise, drawing you into a world you thought you knew, but then flips it on its head? Well, that's exactly what happened to me with P.D. James' Death Comes to Pemberley. Now, if you're like me, you probably love Jane Austen, and Pride and Prejudice is a classic, right? We all know Elizabeth Bennet and Mr. Darcy, their witty banter, their epic love story, and that beautiful happy ending at Pemberley. But P.D. James, who, by the way, was an incredible crime writer and even a baroness in real life, decided to peek in on them about 6 years later, and well, she brought a murder investigation to their tranquil lives. She even, with a touch of brilliant self-awareness, literally apologizes to Jane Austen's shade in the book for putting her beloved Elizabeth in the trauma of a murder investigation. It's like she's saying, sorry Jane, but things get a little darker after the wedding. It's 1803, and Elizabeth and Darcy are happily married, deeply in love, and blessed with two sons at their grand estate, Pemberley. The house is buzzing with preparations for their annual Ladies' Ball, a huge social event that the whole county looks forward to. Everything seems perfect, a picture of domestic bliss, right? But underneath this polished surface there are whispers, old resentments, and as we quickly find out, some deep family secrets that are about to explode. The story kicks off with a massive, literally chaotic shock. Remember Lydia Bennet, Elizabeth's youngest sister, who famously eloped with the charming but notoriously irresponsible George Wickham? Well, she bursts into Pemberley in the middle of a stormy night, not arriving through the main gate, but through the dark, seldom used woodland road. She's hysterical, screaming that Wickham has been shot and his friend, Captain Denny, is dead in the spooky woodland near the estate. Suddenly, the serene, meticulously ordered Pemberley is plunged into chaos, and Darcy, being the master of the house and the local magistrate, has to act immediately. He, along with his cousin, Colonel Fitzwilliam, and their guest, Henry Alveston, rush into the Ray last night to investigate what in the world has happened, and what they find is straight out of a Gothic novel. Captain Denny, lifeless, and a drunken Blesmere Wickham kneeling over him, muttering what sounds very much like a confession. He's dead. Oh God, Denny is dead. He was my friend, my only friend, and I've killed him. I've killed him. It's my fault. This immediately sets the stage for a compelling mystery. Is Wickham a murderer, or is there something far more complicated going on here? Now enters Sir Selwyn Hardcastle, the local magistrate. He's this stern by-the-book character who, interestingly, has a historical animosity with the Darcy family stemming from a past injustice related to deer poaching. You can feel the tension as he takes over the investigation, and Wickham is promptly arrested and thrown into Lambton Prison. Hardcastle is convinced he has his man, especially after Dr. Belcher, the police's rather eccentric medical advisor, examines Denny's body and determines he was brutally bludgeoned, not shot, with a heavy smooth-edged weapon, first on the forehead, then fatally at the back of the skull. This wasn't an accident, it was murder, and Wickham's supposed confession is damning evidence. The narrative then takes us through the inquest and the subsequent trial at London's Old Bailey. It's fascinating to see how P.D. James, with her background in criminal policy, meticulously details the legal proceedings of the era. Darcy, Colonel Fitzwilliam, and Elveston all testify. Wickham, despite his apparent nonchalance, sticks to his story. He takes responsibility for the argument that drove Denny into the woods, but not for the murder itself. He's also found with a significant sum of money, £30, which raises immediate suspicions for the authorities. But here's where it gets really intriguing. You might be asking, what exactly was this £30 about? And why was Wickham so insistent on his innocence, even when everyone thought he was confessing? Well, hold that thought, because the answers are tied to secrets that run much deeper than a simple quarrel. Meanwhile, Elizabeth and Darcy are grappling with their own anxieties. Elizabeth is worried about Georgiana, Darcy's sister, who's being courted by both the now Viscount Hartleigh, Colonel Fitzwilliam, and the charming Henry Alveston. Georgiana, it turns out, has her own past with Wickham, a near elopement that Darcy had covered up years ago to save her reputation. The family is determined to protect her from any further scandal. especially now with Wickham back in their lives as a murder suspect. And then, just as Wickham is found guilty and the Black Cat is about to be done for his sentencing, a miracle happens. Dr. McPhee and Reverend Oliphant burst into the courtroom with a confession, not from Wickham, but from Will Bidwell, the dying son of the Pemberley coachman. This is a huge shocking twist. Will, who had been gravely ill and largely bedridden, confessed to hitting Denny with the poker. Believing Denny was Wickham, whom he mistakenly thought was an officer who had previously attempted to seduce his sister Louisa, he had seen an officer Denny approaching his cottage in the moonlight and acted out of a desperate protective impulse, thinking he was saving his sister from a seducer. Completely unaware of Wickham's true identity or that Denny was his friend, he explains that Denny then stumbled and hit his head on the gravestone of Soldier, Darcy's great-grandfather's dog, resulting in the fatal injury. It's a chain of misinterpretations and unfortunate events rooted in deep, unspoken fears. This is where the layers of secrets truly peel back. We learn that Wickham had a child with Louisa Bidwell, the coachman's daughter, during one of his stints of unemployment, to avoid a scandal that would stain Pemberley and affect both the Darcy and Bentley families, since this illegitimate child would be Wickham's nephew or niece and therefore related to them by marriage. Colonel Fitzwilliam had agreed to provide Wickham with money, that infamous £30, to ensure the child was adopted by Louisa's married sister in Birmingham, away from the estate. It was a classic case of protecting the family name at all costs, even if it meant dealing with someone as morally ambiguous as Wickham. Colonel Fitzwilliam even confessed to burning a letter from Mrs. Yunge, Georgiana's former companion, who was revealed to be Wickham's half-sister and a notorious blackmailer. She was also trying to get more money and adopt the child herself. It was all about keeping the scandal contained and preserving the family's reputation. So when Wickham said, "It's my fault," he wasn't confessing to murder. He felt responsible because his actions seducing Louisa, bringing Denny into the woods for a shady deal involving the child, led to Denny being in that specific place at that specific time, where Will Bidwell tragically mistook him for the seducer and delivered the fatal blow. It's a deeply human, deeply sad chain of unfortunate events, rooted in the consequences of Wickham's past behavior and the protective impulses of a dying man. With Will Bidwell's confession, Wickham receives a royal pardon, a truly miraculous escape from the gallows. But his future isn't in England. The Reverend Samuel Cornbinder, a prison chaplain who befriended Wickham through chess games, arranges for Wickham and Lydia to emigrate to the New World, to Virginia, for a fresh start. Wickham is to work on a horse farm, a skill he actually possesses, and Lydia, ever the attention seeker, is ecstatic at the prospect of a new adventure, and the child, little Georgie, the innocent victim of all this complicated plotting, is quietly and lovingly placed with the family in Highbury. Orchestrated by the kind and discreet Mrs. Reynolds, far from the whispers and hidden truths of Pemberley, the book ends with Darcy and Elizabeth, their marriage stronger than ever, reflecting on the weight of their past decisions and the nature of forgiveness. Darcy admits his own pride and past mistakes, including how he mishandled Georgiana's guardianship and his initial efforts to separate Jane and Bentley. He realizes that concealing the truth about Wickham earlier, instead of protecting Georgiana, might actually have led to this tragedy. It's a powerful moment of introspection, where the polished facade of the aristocracy is stripped away, revealing human vulnerability and the messy reality of life. Elizabeth, ever the pragmatic and loving wife, helps him come to terms with it, reminding him that love and forgiveness can overcome anything. And in a final touch of hopeful domesticity, Elizabeth reveals she is pregnant with their daughter, a symbol of their enduring love and future. Georgiana and Elveston are clearly in love too, and seek Darcy's blessing, which he gives wholeheartedly, signifying a new openness in the family. So what's the big takeaway from Death Comes to Pemberley? For me, it's a brilliant exploration of how secrets, especially those buried deep within a family or a rigid social structure, can fester and eventually explode with devastating consequences. It shows the ripple effect of seemingly minor decisions and how reputation, class, and duty can overshadow personal truth and happiness. It challenges the idea of a perfect happy ending, reminding us that life is always more complicated, more nuanced, and sometimes far darker than our favorite novels might let us to believe. It also highlights the courage it takes to confront uncomfortable truths, both within oneself and within society. It makes you think about justice, not just in the legal sense, but in the human sense, what people deserve, and how compassion and understanding can be just as powerful as law, even when the law is flawed. It's a reminder that even in the most well-ordered lives, chaos can strike, and that true strength lies in facing those realities with honesty and love. If you're a fan of Jane Austen and wonder what happened next, but also enjoy a gripping mystery with psychological depth and social commentary, you absolutely have to read Death Comes to Pemberley. It's a compelling read that will stay with you long after you've turned the final page, making you rethink everything you thought you knew about happy endings and the complex lives of our beloved characters. It's not just a whodunit, it's a why did they do it, delving into the human heart's capacity for both good and ill. Go pick it up, you won't regret it.